Okay, so today we have some massive news from Conor. If you've been on LinkedIn, if you follow LinkedIn, if you're one of his over 50, 60,000 fans on LinkedIn, which of course I am, I'm subscribed, I hit the bell notification, I get all the Conor updates. But you'll know that Conor has launched something really, really incredible, which is Conor's AI mindset. Now, this is a newsletter. This is his courses. This is a bunch of really cool stuff. So today on the podcast, we'll be talking about it. But Conor, kicking it over to you, tell us, what this is exactly and what people can expect to get out of it.
Yeah, thanks. And so, Jaden, this is kind of how you and I also first connected, right? Like over this stuff and this framework that you and I were talking about. So what's out there now is it's AI Mindset. It's a whole new hub, weekly newsletter, a resource guide. I partnered with a designer, Robert Haslam, who's to me the best designer out there. He knows generative AI better than almost anybody I know too. And we just kind of partnered on putting this whole thing together in terms of like the design and everything like that. So it looks phenomenal. But really, it's the concept behind it, Jaden, that I'm really excited about. And just to sort of take us back for a minute, because as you know, like I work with tons of companies and I do a lot of training and all that kind of stuff. And the evolution of AI mindset, I thought was kind of interesting. So let me just kind of give a little breakdown of it, because it sort of changed the way that I saw generative AI and changed the way I taught generative AI. So I first started this about a year ago or something. I built out a training framework because I was trying to teach our MBA students. As you know, I'm over at NYU Stern School of Business. And I built something to train the students on. And I built kind of like a 3-part framework with, that felt like, the normal way to build out a framework, right? It was like sort of like more basic to more advanced use cases, and, then specific use cases and different ways you could do it and different tips and tricks and all that kind of stuff. And that was the framework. Now, here's the thing. I would teach that to the students. It was pretty good. And then companies started saying, well, will you come and teach us that? So I started going out and teaching it to companies, and it worked, right? I mean, like it was like good. And companies would be like, oh, this is great, and all that kind of stuff. And then I would leave and I would check back in kind of like a few weeks later.
Okay.
And be like, hey, how's your generative AI journey going? And they would be like, well, we're not really using it, or they weren't really using it that well.
Okay.
And Jaden, you and I have talked about this before. It's like, what is it? So that's, Jaden, when I sort of like started to realize like, okay, I got to do this like totally differently. And that's where AI mindset really started to take off,
Okay. Yes, this makes sense. And that would be my prediction too. Like if you tell me, you go to a training course at a corporation and you leave and you come back and you're like, how's it going? Like sometimes people more than it's not just like AI isn't something where you just like get in there, try it once, do a training course and like you're good. It's like there's so much experimentation and continual learning that you have to do, And I mean, my background, of course, a lot of people know is in education as well. I taught at university, and then I worked at an online education company after that. And one of the biggest things that I found was like the company I worked at after, we were all about continuing education credits. It was specifically in like supply chain, but like it was so important for these people that after, you graduate, you go work in a company. It's so important. Things are always changing. And, in the field of healthcare, in the field of supply chain, in so many fields, like continuing education is so important. And it's no different with AI. Like you go in there, you learn, you try a couple things, that doesn't mean anything. Like this is a continual process. Things are changing rapidly. And so that's what I'm really excited about what you're doing, like being able to share your updates in your newsletter and in all of your content. Like you're bringing people along for a long-term journey to continually improve them on what they're working on. Tell me a little bit about like what exactly is in this, right? What's all entailed? I know you have a newsletter. I'm subscribed, but what else is all in the AI mindset?
Yeah, thanks. So like, and this is the thing, right? So like, the newsletter is going to sort of like start tracking the, where I kind of got to, and this thing that sort of ended up taking off, which I've been sort of like quietly calling AI mindset for several months now, as you know. But I kind of like came out, and sort of like presented it to the world in the last couple of days, I guess. But here's the funny thing, right? Like I totally agree, right? Like it's all this continuing education, and it's like how you train on generative AI really, really matters, because as you know, like, you've done a lot of this kind of stuff, right? Like you do like one workshop with people and it's great, but people often get excited, and then some people will use it, some people don't. But here's what I found, and this was really interesting. When I found out that people weren't really using it, I'm like, how are people not using it? You and I talk about this all the time. There's basically no learning curve to this, right? It's not like French or calculus or Excel, where you have to, you have beginners in the room and you have experts and you can't reconcile that. That's not what this is. The only thing you really need to know how to do, as we talk about all the time, is like talk like a human. That's very simple in concept. It's very hard in practice. And that got me really thinking, like, what is going on here? Why are people not really learning this? And so I took this back to NYU and I sort of started talking with folks who really understood, the brain, right? I'm like, there must be something wrong with us, because the tool, GPT-4, was extremely powerful. So I'm like, and I got the best analogy, right? This person who's like a neuroscientist, she's actually an executive coach. She was teaching me. And she's like, here's what I think is happening, Conor. Like, imagine you're trying to get two people into shape, right? And the first person you give like a state-of-the-art gym to, or an amazing treadmill or whatever, right? And the second person you give an actual personal trainer to, which one gets in shape? And I was like, probably the personal trainer. And she's like, yeah, but why? And I'm like, huh. And I'm like, maybe accountability. She's like, kind of. Here's the thing. Let's call it a treadmill for a second.
Okay.
With a treadmill is just a tool, right? Like a treadmill sort of, and the American economy is built atop this idea that you can sell somebody a tool and that will change their behavior, right? But in fact, like getting into shape is all about behavior, right? Otherwise, like I would get into shape by getting on the treadmill and I would be in shape. No, I get off the treadmill after 5 minutes because my brain is like, no, check out that couch, check out those Doritos, right? And why is that? It's because your brain is seeking things out like quick rewards and conserving energy and things like that. So that's when I really started to unlock this whole thing where it's like, okay, this is about how we think. And I went deep into this thing about neural pathways and all that kind of stuff. And basically I ended up throwing away this whole framework that I'd built and building what I now call the AI mindset framework, which is really not about how the tool works, advanced settings and use cases. And it's all about how we think, how we learn, how we make decisions, how we communicate, how we strategize, and then bring it in. And I've talked about that a little bit, but once I did that, then it really took off. And then I started working with some of the, the biggest companies in the world to train them.
That's amazing. My question for you is, you've taught this framework to a number of big companies. What is the biggest takeaway you feel like, or something maybe you hear from a lot of people that after going through this or listening to it, that they're like, oh my gosh, like this part of it was amazing. Like what's the raving reviews part that you get out of this that people really, come back? Cause I know like you're literally talking all the time. You're like, oh, I'm flying here and I'm flying there and I'm talking to these people. Like you are all over the place talking to some big people about this stuff. So like, what is it that they love about this?
Yeah, no, it's really interesting, right? I think that once you allow people to understand that they don't need anything that they don't have already, that's really exciting, right? So I can be in a room of 300, 400 people, 1,000 people, or just 20 people, and I can legitimately say to them, like, look, whether you are a super user on this or whether you've really never used it before, we're all in about an hour or so, really in about 25 minutes, we're all going to end up at the same place. So I like run, workshops for companies, and now I'm going to be building out courses on AI mindset to teach individuals the same thing I've been teaching these like mega companies. And the thing that I get so excited about, and I think the thing to your point that they get so excited about, is when you sort of show them that it's not like, well, I need to know how to prompt. I'm like, no, you don't. Like, look, yes, at the margins, is there a value in really sort of like framing a question? Yeah, of course. But what I say all the time, and what you and I talk about a lot too, Jaden, is prompt guides and everything like that. And this is what my first newsletter that came out just now was based around, is that even when you look at like prompt guides put out by OpenAI, right? And I've talked to, our friend Logan over there and other people over at OpenAI about this as well. The interesting thing is that prompt guides aren't like an IKEA put together this chest of drawers guide step by step. It's really an amalgamation of how would you talk to a human to get that, to really lead that human, to really lead that intern, right? So my first slide when I do all of this is not a digital transformation. It looks like a digital transformation. It is not. It is a change management exercise. It's a culture exercise. And I don't mean those as loosey-goosey terms. I mean it really literally. Like if you can have a leadership, and if you can get people enthusiastic, and then you can teach them in this like framework that I teach, this kind of 3-part framework, then all of a sudden people are like, oh, actually, I know how to do this. I don't need any special skills. And I think that's the thing that really gets people, super excited in the end.
That's amazing. Yeah, I think that's super, super cool. This is obviously something that's very valuable to a lot of people. So, I mean, I tell everyone, that I know, like make sure you're subscribed to his newsletter. I was actually just scrolling through the most recent one. It's called The Truth About Prompting. You have a ton of good takeaways, a ton of tips, a bunch of awesome graphics in there to make it visual and easy for people to digest. So I'm telling everyone, make sure to subscribe. If they want to subscribe, how do people find this? Where do you find the AI mindset on the internet?
Thanks. So it's easy. I made it. It's my name easily. So it's ConorGrennan.com. Then that'll take you to sort of like the AI mindset page. Again, it looks gorgeous thanks to Robert Haslam. But it's really cool. I think it is easy to read. And when you sign up for the newsletter, which is right on the homepage, it comes out weekly. And it's basically my strategies that I teach to these giant companies and that I teach at NYU Stern. And it's news that you need. And then it's some tips. But you also get this, I think one of the best out there anyway, a quick start guide, which isn't like, hey, here's what ChatGPT is. It's really like, let's get in here and in 21 super easy to read pages later, like with giant graphics, it's like 6 words on a page. But I think you're really going to get somewhere. And then stay tuned because this is where the courses are going to live and everything too. But yeah, thanks for letting me talk about it. It's something that's interesting. And I really think that if we're changing the way that we approach this, I think it's really going to take off, not just in your company, but just, kind of across individual roles as well. And even for people in their personal life, I think this is something where it's going to make a huge difference.
100%. I'll make sure to leave a link in the show notes if anyone wants to go check it out. ConorGrennan.com. You can find all of this. There'll be a link in the show notes. I'm really personally excited for the courses. I think that's, you've obviously done courses with LinkedIn Learning. So like you've made some impressive stuff out there, and I think this is going to help people out a ton. So super excited for it. We'll make sure to tune in. If you are a listener and you enjoyed the episode today, make sure to leave us a review. It means the world to us. And if you don't feel like leaving us a review today, just go subscribe to Conor's newsletter. Maybe that'll be the plug for the day. If you only do one thing today, you got to go get on that newsletter. It's going to be amazing, and you won't be disappointed by the content. So hope you all have a fantastic rest of your day, and we'll talk to you later.